Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. You've heard it before from hyena sisters, sympathizers, and even from women who aren't toxic in their behavior, but think that toxic, wicked witches of the West aren't toxic either. You're just mad because of the fine chicks who didn't pick you back in high school. You're being told that your anger or dismissal is wrong because you simply are bitter about what wasn't yours to begin with and not getting what you were never promised or owed out of the gate. Rome, of the channels Average Man Unplugged and Unplugged Traveler, uploaded recently entitled a video, Proof Women Don't Like Men Who Value Themselves and Set Boundaries. In that, Western women in general were shown as wanting men to not value ourselves and not demand fair treatment in exchange for what we have to do to get them. Okay, they don't want that in a man, but that's the extreme opposite of the other thing that women don't want. Rome was right, and the women saying that what they didn't want were probably telling the truth. But remember, they don't want men who don't have boundaries either, and they don't want men who let them do what they want. They lose respect for them. This is another proof that you can't win. It's just like the arguments about money and height and fame and being high value. You can't win even when you are, to a certain extent. It's getting to that point. The only ones that might be close to winning are those whose body games are on point and they don't have to do anything else because there's a husband taking care of all the other needs and he just goes in there to put the muscle into her back. Wealthy, famous husbands whose wives have filed for divorce serve as proof to us that you can't be rich or famous enough or tall enough to keep abroad. Broke men don't even get a start in many cases unless there are enough attractive women to tell other women that he can ding-a-ling-matize them into a fake and temporary submission. They don't want a man that has been around the block, so they say, but they don't want an inexperienced man either, and they mean that. But they're all concentrating themselves collectively on a few wieners, so that most men are inexperienced and a few are too experienced, and then they show us which one of those they will pick when they have to pick. You already know the unwinnability and the impossibility of this game. That's nothing new. What we forget is to articulate that it's not really the rejection or not being picked that is so angry. It's the deception, gaslighting, false accusations, and dual mating strategy that these other things protect that are angering. The best thing to say in reply is that it's the fact they swear that it's merely an accurate reflection on who we are and what we're worth as 92% of the West men, one of the world's worst and second worst, meanest, choosiest, most toxic by their own confessions and boasting on their iPhone cameras and social media posts. Impossible and hypocritical women insist on all sharing the same 8% of men. It's the lies really both to us and about us. It's the reasons for the lies so they can practice a dual mating strategy and the blaming of us for their decisions and the entire culture that these hypocritical, hybristophilic, toxic B words built around this deception that really irritate us, make us angry. Black men, you aren't at all just some bitter bros whose concerns are trifling and to be dismissed, and that is if you are fat, with a neckbeard, living in your mama's basement, playing video games all day, and smelling stanky. If you were in that position, you're not looking at these women with hatred because they didn't pick you. You're looking at them with anger because when they don't pick you, they still have the nerve to turn around and try to shame you for not being picked. And they continuously do this in everything, which is part and parcel of why they look to you when they say, who hurt you, when you say anything about the deception. Why do y'all say you want this and you go for that? Who hurt you? What they're saying is somebody had to have hurt you because that's what the hell we're here for. So who was it? Oh, because even if you said, well, so-and-so hurt me, she'd say, well, so-and-so was out of your league. You were lucky you got that much. Even if all you got was cheated on, hit for child support for babies that weren't yours. If you got everything bad and nothing good, they would still say, well, so-and-so was out of your league. You are rightfully angry and pissed because of a deception into which these O's put all of their energy and talent and intellect. It's time you simply sit down and think of how you will articulate this in words to yourselves and each other, independently of how we individually decide to do so to others that are not from amongst us. And I'm including the hyenas when I say others, because as we know, when I call them sisters, they're sisters to each other. As I stated before, the next goal is to tell this to younger brothers, even those who aren't yet teens. There are interested parties already getting in their ear and eyes, literally through the school libraries, to desensitize them to booty banditry while they're children. So we might as well go ahead and do this so that they won't be desensitized to the lies and games of wicked witches of the West and be raised as laborers and feeders and community eunuchs, pretty much worker bees, with a very, very small few being chosen to be breeders at the expense of the rest of us. What I'm saying that we should do is within our moral rights. If you can't leave the West, then until such time as you can, undermine that cycle by putting this in these young brothers' heads, and don't agree to raise and clothe these young brothers and feed them on their mom's terms either. Remember, this is war. Just because we didn't start it doesn't mean we have to let them win it. Them winning it means they will raise another generation of boys for the gynocracy, and this one generation probably more brainwashed than we were, so that the virus will be immune to our antivirus instructions and software we give them. Oh yeah. There are hackers or virus writers who create viruses like that. Some viruses are so bad that if you get 2 or 3 of them in together, they can work in conjunction with each other to make all antivirus software that you install never work. I've seen it. Fight to win, gentlemen, by being good allies to the young brothers whom we used to be decades ago, as we work to get ourselves out of the plantation and out of the matrix and out of the gynocracy's jurisdiction. The biggest threat to our freedom might be Massa, but the closest threat to it is Sapphire. And she's raising our younger versions to make sure they think that we are the biggest threat to their freedom. She's telling them to just be the kind of guy that it would make sense for sisters to want, but whom sisters never do, even after they hit the wall like Lisa Ray and the nether regions don't work. And that their day is going to come for them to start their own family. Sapphire is telling her nephews, and in some cases her own sons, to give the validation to women that women want, but telling these young bloods that it's attention and appreciation, not free validation. She's telling them that they're the man of the house when it's time to move heavy furniture, for which she doesn't want to pay professional movers to move, not caring anything about that boy's back. But when it's time for that cub to know how to protect what he earns in life through his efforts from leeches and flatbackers, she ain't gonna tell that boy nothing that he needs to know. Sometimes even when he does start to figure certain things out on his own and voices them around her, she'll then deny the same things to which she may have previously confessed. Fight against that without paying mom's bills. This is a war for the very DNA of our people, and these sisters aren't our sisters, and they aren't for our people at all, or for our DNA to remain undiluted as they claim. They're for the right to dilute it without us having any rights at all or even options. That's all. That's why they preach pro-blackness while chasing not only non-black men, but specifically only the ones whose people look down on us, not allies or even neutral men like Southeast Asian men. They're waging war on black male heterosexuality. Fight them by abandonment when you can, and by undermining their passing down of the same gynocracy to another generation of black males until you can fight them by abandonment. Fight to win. The second message I wanted to tell you was about something that they're going to be doing. And I think that I may have talked about this before, but I can't remember. I'm so busy. Forgive me for that. I'm going through a transition. And a week from tomorrow should be my last day with my current position. And then I've only got a few days for my current employer to approve of an Akama transfer request so that I can go to the next employer. If they don't do it timely, they will screw that up. I lose the other job opportunity and I don't know what to do. So I'm going through all of this, and having to move, and at the same time my wife has to move in the city in which we used to live all of a sudden too, does put a lot on me. And I might repeat certain things, not remembering that I said them before. If I do that this time, I'm sorry. The next thing I wanted to point out is that you've got some African sisters living in the Philippines. I mean, they're from the continent. They're living in the Philippines, and I saw this on Facebook. I could not maintain or save the video in time, though. They asked some ladies in the Philippines, mostly Filipino women, what do you think about Africa? They're asking the Pinays, and when they ask the Pinays, what have you heard about Africa? The Pinays will tend to say certain things that sound just like the propaganda. But what I noticed is that when I could clearly hear the continental sisters asking them, what do you think about Africa? Then the responses were much more positive. With that being said, let me state this. This is going to be used as propaganda. The Western sisters are going to latch on to this, and they're going to say, see, these passport bros can't wait to get them one of these women. I told you they just hate themselves. Why would anybody want women like this that think this way about them? Well, here's the thing. Number one, as I stated, when I could clearly hear the African women speaking and I could clearly hear one question. There are times I couldn't fully hear the question, but when I could clearly hear one question, I'd hear one answer correspond. When I could clearly hear another question, I heard another one correspond. There were times I could not clearly hear if they said, what did you hear, or what do you think? I could not fully hear. I heard mostly just African. Sometimes some women are up speaking and you don't hear the part, you don't see the part where they were asked the question. What I do want you to understand is that the way, remember this will be presented to you as if you hate yourself because you're willing to go and find a Pinay and wife her up. If they think, or they've heard this propaganda about Africa, and they treat men of African descent well, and this is one of the things they're known to do, even when the men are from the continent. It's not only black Western men they treat well. What does that say about them? That they can hear negative propaganda and still take you as an individual. That is much more than you ever going to get from a Western sister, and sometimes from some sisters from the continent. But from a Western sister, that's more and better than what you will get, especially if that Western sister is any kind of attractive. If she's not, and she's just in the middle, she's going to have a nasty, filthy, stank, funky attitude. I heard you. I mean, think about it. They already believe that they can profile us based on complexion. And they fully believe they can do that. And they fully believe they're not doing anything wrong and they're not getting any information wrong. They believe that that is possible. What the hell do you think that means in terms of staying with them, breeding with them? What the hell do you think that means when they have your kids? This propaganda is going to be latched onto. When you go and you meet them, you will still find that they will take you one-on-one as an individual. Sisters are going to come with all kind of pseudoscience. Well, these societies are collective and they ain't individualistic, and you got to stand with your people. Okay. Then why are they judging us as individuals even though they come from collective societies? It may mean that they don't go against the family, but why are they judging us as individuals? What's the reason for that? We come from an individual society, and sisters are judging brothers collectively all the time. Girl, I can read him. I can read men. Meanwhile, she got 3 babies and 5 baby daddies. And she'll tell you that none of them were worth a dime, but she picked them. But she can read men by looking at them. Sitting up here telling all her friends who not to be with, who not to choose. And it's always someone that's responsible and doesn't mean any harm. The reason that they're doing this is because they want to funnel See, what happened is that the feminist hybristomaniacs, the wicked witches of the West, and as we know, tried to fire and throw shade at women from the Philippines, and they got fired back. And women from Thailand got on their behinds too and said, "Who the hell you think you talking to?" and said it in good English. And they sisters found that they weren't going to be able to just say what they wanted. So they want to turn around and try to convince us that these same women can't stand us because we're black. What they want to do is they want to funnel us not to Latin America, because that is going to be more difficult. They're going to try to funnel us to the continent, and that is the two reasons for it. One, it serves a type of pro-black narrative that they might fool themselves into believing, even though they don't really support it. Kind of. It validates them as black women. But the other reason that they're going to do that is because they find a certain measure of success spreading feminism on the continent that they don't find doing so in Southeast Asia and in Latin America. They got Lagos. They got South Africa, especially its bigger cities. We know that already. They got certain segments of the population in Kampala and Nairobi. They already got them. They can spread it from out there. So by funneling us to these areas, they will funnel us into more women that not only look the same as the ones we left, and there is no problem with that, but they will funnel us into women who will have the same attitudes. What they don't understand is that that's actually going to backfire even worse than what they thought. There are already black men, some my age, but not that common, who don't want black women because they're black. They feel the same way about black women racially that non-black men feel. I don't want 4C hair. I don't want a big nose. I don't want big lips, and I don't want dark skin. Now, you can be a light-skinned woman with long hair and have a black woman's body, but I don't want a black woman. One of them I know. It's from Lafayette. He's on Facebook, and he does not hide this. He shows off his light-skinned exotic Colombiana wife every chance he gets. And he'll tell you, I don't want 4C hair. When I say natural hair, this ain't what I'm talking about. He'll tell you. Now, I believe that this man was imprinted and then re-imprinted, because men can be re-imprinted. But when sisters do this and they manage to turn the continent into another place of feminism, a continent of feminism, if you will, at least the urban areas, and brothers are going there because that's where we're going anyway. But in large numbers, that's where we prefer to go anyway, in large numbers. When we start doing this and we start meeting that feminism, the backfire is going to happen, and more of us that were into the continent at first are going to redirect to black enclaves of Latin America, which are closer to the States anyway. Or we're going to go even further over the continent to Southeast Asia, because the continent will repel us if that happens, if they succeed in it. And so they're trying to play it slick. I wanted you to understand that trick as well. Though it'll backfire, I still wanted you to know that in the meantime, that's what they're attempting to do. So if you're going to go to the continent, really, if you're going to go anywhere, as I've stated before, we're going to have to fight against their attempts to spread feminism, because they're not always unsuccessful. But the continent, for whatever reason, seems to be where they've met with more success. Not universally across the continent, all over it. But what I just mean is that if you take the continent and average it out, there's more success there. Make it backfire on them. So, that being said, thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Assalamu alaikum, and you know the rest. Black, heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction of Judgment Day, including in our home continent. Thank you all for flying Jet Black Airways with us, where Jet Black is also a verb. On your way out of the Jet Black aircraft, Please punch the Cash App button for either me or for Mr. Hayes, and please only enter in amounts that are small to you and that you will not miss later. Do not harm yourselves by being overgenerous. I do not say give till it hurts. And as always, keep Jet and Black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.